Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to Suzerain Kingdom of Rizia, where it is time for us to go to the Alliance of Nations and see how they will rule on our gas dispute with Palais. Hopefully, it will go not horribly. It was a rainy day in Kirut, one of only a handful the Isle experience per year. The sound of the falling drops on the Alliance of Nation dome made for an unexpectedly soothing backdrop to what I could tell was going to be a tense session. I sat with Lorenzo and the rest of the Rizzi delegation in the half full assembly hall. Today's session was to focus on South Mercopa only. Looking around the room, I could see representatives and leaders from Velen, Morella, Dardia, and Lesbia. Duke Axel Reinhardt and Patricio Alvarez entered late. Deep in conversation, they nodded at each other and took seats with their respective delegations. Uh... Did I make a mistake? Are we going to lose the arbitration case? I believe you can win, especially if we make a good argument today. Very well, Your Majesty. Your father always had a case of nerves before these sessions. Uh, I'm nervous about the arbitration case. We have a lot riding on that. We turned our attention to the front of the room as President Nines called the meeting to order. This was a special session, so the opening remarks were kept short. Before I knew it, it was time for the individual leaders of South Mercopa to present their speeches. Prime Minister Alma Sultana strode up to the podium. She had to lower the microphone to reach it. Big trouble in a small package. Let's hear what she has to say before passing judgment. The Morellan leader greeted the assembly. Her voice had melodic lilt to it that I associated with Kinile. Mr. President, esteemed leaders, and distinguished guests, it is my honor to speak in these hallowed halls for the first time. I come before you representative of the new Morella, a country committed to breaking free from the shackles of our repressive past, a country that is now truly aligned with the AN values of justice, solidarity, and human dignity, and one that is proud to build bridges with those who share our vision of a more equal society. She nodded towards the upper seats of the assembly room. I looked behind to see Valkslandian Chancellor Emmerich Hegel applauding fiercely. Uh, I thought this was a South Mercopa session. Chancellor Hegel is not on the speaking program. He must have flown to Kirut solely to support Madame Prime Minister. It is time of transition for Morella, but as we redefine our principles and our partnerships, one fact becomes abundantly clear. We can no longer abide the senseless exploitation of our land, people, and resources. I knew this would be about the international trade zone. She hasn't taken her eye off the topic since her election. For too long, our so-called partners in the MEFTM International Trade Zone have dug the ground out from under us. We allowed them to ravage our soil and abuse our workers while reaping more than their fair share of the profits. They send security forces to guard their gold, yet leave the rest of Morella to the mercy of Durdian terrorists. Meanwhile, countries such as Rizia are willing to regulate their mining industries at home, but turn a blind eye to exploitation abroad. Uh, it's true. We should apply the same standards in the ITZ as we do in Rizia. And we can if we're willing to fight another uphill battle with Mr. Montaro. Morella calls on the Alliance of Nations to recognize our human rights struggle and to accept that if the MEFTM-ITZ is to continue, any wealth it generates must be reinvested in the Morellan people. Bravo, Madame Prime Minister. Chancellor Hegel was standing now. The other AN guests turned their heads in his direction. As fellow stewards of the international trade zone and fellow soldiers in the fight against imperialism, the nation of Alexland supports Morella in its journey. Are you sure that he can't get her into the CSP? Not until Morella improves its military, which may be reason for this sudden interest in nationalization. Hegel sat back down, Nine's motion for Prime Minister Sultana to continue. I thank all of you for your attention today and look forward to forging a brighter future for the people of South Maricopa. All of them. Lorenzo turned to me as the Morellan Prime Minister wrapped up her speech and returned to her seat. It seems the trade zone is going to be more of a sticking point than I thought. Just hope she doesn't expect me to deal with Dirty on her behalf. Speaking of which, Supreme Wiseman Yorga Azmal stepped onto the stage dressed in a ceremonial robe with silver trim. Before speaking, he waved his hand in the air 6 times, representing the 6 pillars of Golkondism. I'm surprised he flew out here. Dirty as Supreme Wiseman normally refrains from speaking in public. Whatever he has to say must be important. I admit I'm very curious. The Supreme Wiseman spoke in a deep baritone. Dear great and powerful leaders of South Maricopa, in the name of Prophet Ruhek, I salute you. I am a humble enough to know that we men alone cannot decide the fate of a continent, not without God's guidance, and it is God who has guided me here today. We are one of the few nations brave enough to let themselves be ruled by His law, but we are also a country like any other. Yet our attempts to find common ground with our neighbors have been rebuffed over and over, slowly on account of our beliefs. I looked over at where Alma Sultana was sitting. She was openly scowling. The PM of Morella accuses us of violating her borders, yet it was not so long ago that we were one country. Because of arbitrary lines that have been drawn, my people can no longer visit the graves of their ancestors or the shrines where they once worshipped. Every single one of us, Dirtia, Morella, Rizia, Velen, we all have different views, yet we all are united by the divine path of Saint Ruhek. And it is my humble request that we Dirtians be able to follow that path as we have for centuries. Sounds reasonable enough. But does what he's saying justify the violent acts committed by Dirtian pilgrims? On that note, concerns have been raised about the missile tests my country has been conducting. Our aim has only ever been to protect our people and way of life. It is God's will that we use this technology not for evil, but to contribute to global security and stability. Amala Sultana started laughing. Yeah, exactly. God wants missiles, that's priceless. All in the Golconda's Gospel, Your Majesty. Asmal put his hands on the podium. How far we have fallen that the only country in South Maricopa where the pillars of unity still stand tall is treated as a laughingstock. You all speak of superpowers, but I know there is only one superpower we need to worry about. He pointed upwards. The sooner our nations come together under him, the sooner true peace and prosperity can be realized. Supreme Wiseman Asmal made the pillar sign again as he exited the stage. The chandelier is a superpower? Lorento held back a laugh. Oh no, but now it's time for the real heavy artillery. He gestured to an aide to begin taking notes as President Nines announced Victor Smolak. There were some whispers from within the room as Velen's president stepped up to the podium. He silenced them with a theatrical shushing motion, then he continued. Dear fellow leaders, I wish I could say I was happy to be here standing as one of the 6 proud nations of South Maricopa, and yet I feel only sorry that our magnificent region has let itself been torn apart by forces greater than ourselves. I speak of course of Arcasia and Rumburg. Yeah, conveniently leaving out United Contana. Yes, it doesn't count if the superpower is his patron. Convinced of the idea that might makes right, they sowed discord among us in order to strengthen themselves. And Velen, poor war-torn Velen, must pay the highest price. Who among you can deny ATO's involvement in the Velen Civil War, or Rumberg's shipping of arms to the bloodish separatist movement? Nobody in the hall said a word. Victor looked up at me directly. It is to my everlasting regret that when Velen was at its weakest, our direct neighbors opted for an alliance with a nation that has sought to harm us at every turn. I do not blame the great kingdom of Rizia for its decision, but neither can I ignore that for the past 20 years, Rumberg has maintained a presence to both our north and south. In light of that, I cannot simply accept that the Zilla bombing, the most heinous terrorist acts to occur in Velen since the Civil War, was the work of a few rogue agents. Ah, here it comes. Rizia's inaction in the wake of the incident speaks volumes. What is to stop such violence from reoccurring? What will happen to the Vesex who have made Zilla their home once Rizia and by proxy Rumberg regains control of the region? I am a man who respects the rule of law, yet I cannot put my country people at risk by abandoning the territory while this question still hangs in the air. Oh, for fuck's sake. He's not handing it over. Here it comes. This is why I have decided to invoke the AN Threat Mitigation Protocol for treaty obligations to delay the return of Zilla until that risk is neutralized. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the assembly. I felt many pairs of eyes on me. Is that a real thing? It is, Your Majesty, but no nation has ever invoked it before. The murmurs in the room were growing louder. President Nines banged a gavel for silence. If I may continue. It is not my intention to keep custody of the Zillo region, of course not. Forever. The sooner that the safety and security are restored, the sooner we may begin preparing for an orderly transition. I hope for swift cooperation from His Majesty King Romus and my fellow South Mercopan nations. Together we are strong. He raised his arm in expectation of applause. None came. None of our neighbors is openly taking Velen's side. That bodes well for us. Victor shook his head and left the stage. Emmett, what should I do? We'll have a chance to comment soon enough. I'll get in touch with Velen's foreign ministers as soon as we're back home. There may still be ways to straighten things out. Now let's see if Prime Minister Alvarez has any words on the subject. Prime Minister Patricio Alvarez was next. He straightened his tie as he approached the microphone. Mr. President, may I just start by voicing my unwavering support for this fine organization and the role that it plays. Were it not for the Alliance of Nations, there would be no way to stop our country's petty quarrels from devouring the world. Which, ladies and gentlemen, is precisely what's in danger of happening today. The nation of Lesbia is deeply concerned about the deployment of Rizian naval forces around the Aureus gas field in the Antician Sea. I mean, we wouldn't have to have deployed naval forces if you didn't send your puppets to start prematurely mining for gas that isn't theirs. The use of military force to occupy disputed territory goes directly against the AN's most cherished principles. It is essential that Rizia respect the legal process and accept the results of arbitration, whatever they may be. Such blatant use of intimidation tactics shows that the kingdom has no intention of doing so. We stand ready to aid the peaceful settlement of this dispute, and we beg the AN not to let Rizia's show of force affect its judgment. For our part, it is clear that due to the small size and limited habitability of the Rizian island of Kalekabes, the Grand Duchy of Palais has greater claim to the field than the Kingdom of Rizia. Should I say something? I don't see the point, but if you like. Malarkey! Huh. We're gonna have Valgslandian support on this. Interesting. Everyone turned to look at the Valgslandian Chancellor. Hegel bows his head. Forgive my ill-timed cough. I have a terrible cold today, of course. Say nothing. I said nothing. Hegel gave me a significant look, then sat back in his chair. That brings me to another point I was going to make today. I speak, of course, of the conspiracy to nationalize the Meftium International Trade Zone. Chancellor Hegel stood up again. Alvarez ignored him. Let us not for 1 second believe that Morella is acting on its own accord. The long arm of the Continent Security Pact is behind this. By giving in to Prime Minister Sultana's demands, the nations of Lesbia and Rizia would be effectively paying to increase United Continent's sphere of influence. I know I am not alone in wanting to avoid those disastrous consequences. He looked at the Pelagian delegation. Reinhardt and his ministers politely applauded. I will remind Morella and Vogsland that the Alliance of Nations is watching, as is ATO. Any attempt to seize the international trade zone by unlawful means will be met with retaliation. That will be all. Nothing about Velen? It is not in Lespia's interest to take sides on Zilla for now. Looks like Palais is next. Duke Reinhardt stepped up to the podium with the spotlight on the Pelagian leader. I could see that he had stubble on his chin and dark circles under his eyes. It looks like shit. It is his first AN address. He is quite inexperienced. Duke Reinhardt cleared his throat and shuffled a few papers around. As the leader of the youngest nation in southern Mercopa, I am humbled to be in this great hall. I am fully aware that everyone else in this room has spent their lives preparing to be in power, whereas me, let's just say that calling me a dilettante would be generous. I heard the laughter from around the hall. He is joking, but it's true. I wonder what he's getting at. But just because I am inexperienced does not mean I am naive. The Kingdom of Rizia has deployed a naval fleet to the waters of my Grand Duchy, supposedly in self-defense. And yet, we know what happened the last time Rizia sent military units to Palais. I believe that the coronation of His Majesty King Romus heralded a fresh start for our two nations, but I believe wrong. The incident in Velen has proven the lengths to which this dangerous new monarch will go. In this context, it is vital that my emerging nation assert its sovereignty. We hope the Alliance of Nations Arbitration Committee sees through the kingdom's poorly justified infringement on our maritime borders. And we invite our other colleagues in this esteemed organization to engage with us as equals, irrespective of the way our neighbors has treated us. Alvarez rose to his feet. Well said, Your Grace. Okay, let's not interrupt anything. So that'll just that'll just damage our position. Good, Your Majesty. Don't play the aggressor. Rest assured that we will resist any further attempts to bully us into submission. And furthermore, criminal! Duke Reinhardt looked shaken by the interjection. It didn't sound like a cough, Chancellor. No, I cannot stay silent while you make your entitled demands. Your family used Palais as a base to pillage the Zinnian continent. Everything you had you stole from someone else. And rather than give it back when the revolution forced your hand, you begged the capitalist swine of Lesbia to help you hold on to your ill-gotten gains. I beg your pardon, Chancellor Hegel, but I am not responsible for my family's sins. But you're happy to profit from them, aren't you? Up there in your glass castle, I tell you, Duke Reinhardt, the cracks are beginning to show. Duke Reinhardt just got Hegeled. So it appears, Your Majesty. President Nines, this man is abusing his guest privileges. Can he be removed? After a short back and forth, President Nines issued the Chancellor a stern warning. He glared out from his seat at Duke Reinhardt finished his speech. He tapped on the mic nervously. I see the Chancellor is still resentful that the people of Palais chose the firm leadership of the Reinhardt family over the chaos of revolution. Yes, the Grand Duchy aided in the colonialist aims of the Valgos Empire, but like Waldsland, we are ready to put that past behind us and look toward the future. We simply have a different vision. Palais may not yet have truly earned its spot in this assembly, but it is my hope that it will. His voice had regained its full confidence now, and my nation that and any nation that attempts to stop us from doing so will be met with a strong and resolute response. He rushed back to his seat as a chatter erupted from the rest of the assembly. Certainly been an eventful session, Your Majesty. I hope you're ready for your speech. Ready as I'll ever be. I took a deep breath as President Nines announced my name. Lorenzo gave me a quick smile of encouragement as I left my seat. I stepped up to the podium as, to a smattering of applause, the delegation from Velen and Palais stayed poignantly silent. Sure. Most respected leaders of South Mercopa. Sure. My monarchical forebears instilled in me a great respect for this institution and its values. And one word to peace. Yeah, as we've seen over and over throughout history, our nations can accomplish much more together than we can apart. Which is why I'm so saddened by the division plaguing South Mercopa. I am aware that the comments made by President Victor Smolak earlier in this session demand a response from me. I hope you see Valen's failure to return Zilla for it as a flagrant violation of international law. The bombing was a tragedy, however, my kingdom has taken the necessary steps to ensure it will not be repeated. Chilling implications. Yeah, Valen's willingness to disregard the terms of a legal document has chilling implications for its relations with the rest of the continent. Let's not promise war just yet. We're not fighting for a sliver of Rizia, we're fighting for the future of South Mercopa. Should I actually... Sure, let's appeal to Morella. Prime Minister Sultana, in light of the human rights violations Velen has committed, Morella surely cannot stay silent. Alma Sultana applauded somewhat hesitantly. I call on the rest of you to choose a side. History may write on this outcome. I am not yet finished. I cannot ignore the presence of Chancellor Hegel and his newfound interest in our neighbor. Saw Hegel lean forward in his seat intently. Yeah, sure. I may not share Morella's worldview, yet I believe our citizens' struggles are one and the same. I agree that we must improve our communication to ensure our gold mining standards are in alignment. Prime Minister Sultana began applauding. Hegel looked pleasantly surprised. Let's not make any commitment right now. I will discuss this further at the next meeting of the ITZ board. Prime Minister Alvarez and Lespin delegations were speaking in worried whispers. President Nines again gestured for silence, then motioned for me to continue. Uh, in the same spirit of cooperation, I believe compromise can be reached regarding Dirtius religious travelers. The division of the former Empire of Meridia has pitted brother against brother. The violence must end. Scattered applause came from around the assembly hall. Finally, a word regarding Palais. Okay. Sure. Duke Reinhardt has said he wants other nations to engage with Palais as an equal. That is exactly what Rizia is doing. Palais sent a drill ship to disputed territory. Our response should not come as a surprise. I am convinced that a peaceful compromise can be reached with the AN's help. As a signee of the AN Directive on Offshore Resources, we have a right to the undersea gas within 200 kilometers from our coast, no matter which coast. Of course, no. Of course, we will respect the arbitration committee's ruling as long as it is fair. Of course, I sincerely hope we will not be forced to use the fleet that we have deployed to the field. If Rizia does gain control of this valuable resource, I promise all of South Mercapa will benefit. President Nine's motion to the clock. My speech has gone over its runtime. I won't bore you for much longer. Okay, yeah, sure. President Smolak was wrong. It is not the superpowers who are tearing us apart. We are doing it ourselves. But I hold out hope that we may find our way back to each other. Thank you. I sat down. An aide handed me a glass of water. Well done, Your Majesty. It'll take a while to digest the ramifications. Let's update on all this once we're back in Rizia. Filing back out of the assembly hall, I noticed the sound of the rain on the dome had stopped. Another sunny day in Constantium. Well, let's hope that went in our favor. Torres Association leads peaceful protest against Velen AN decision. Okay, Plavo restoration faces delays due to lack of specialists. Okay, hire specialists from the room. Yeah, sure. Hire specialists from the the Romus Taurus University. Hopefully that is a good decision. Okay, wine launch event, public transportation inefficiency crisis, reason, urgent actions. Okay, we'll look at that at the end of this turn. Reason infrastructure network is our backbone. But that is going to be it for this episode. Thank you all very much for watching. As always, I have been Pope. Please do remember to like, comment, and subscribe. I will see you all next time.